G'day, it's Jamie, and welcome to Where's My Yowie. Today I'm talking to Shane, and he's got some alien and UFO experiences that he'd like to share with us. So, g'day Shane, over to you.
How's it going, Jamie?
Good, thanks mate. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. Pretty good actually, barrel with COVID stuff.
Yep.
Yep, we had a new wave come in South Australia, so pretty flat out over here. All the panic buys are out.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, so we'll get into your stories, please, mate.
All right, well, basically it goes all the way back to when I was a kid. Like I remember, at one stage I thought it was dreams, but I remember waking up to three beings being at the end of my bed all the way from probably about 3 years old up until about 9, and I'd see them there standing at the end of my bed, and I'd freeze. I'd go frozen with fear. I'd go and scream out for my mum, but it was like my voice didn't work. It was like there was no sound at all. So I'd go to scream and then I'd just pass out. And I had so many reoccurring, you could say memories or dreams of this nature as a child. Like it got to the point where I was wet in the bed. I couldn't get out and go to the toilet at night time. And I wet the bed up until I was about 12, 13 years old. And it's not very good for a kid.
No.
But I didn't really understand those contacts and what it was back then. When I'd sit around with a group of my friends as we were kids, like my mates Stephen Skews and Tommy, like Stephen would sit there and say, I'd have dreams that bears were chasing me. And Tommy always used to say that he had dreams that Freddy Krueger was coming after him. Well, my dream was that the guys with no face were coming to get me. And
right.
This is something that I remember pretty well. And it wasn't until 2015, so I've had a lot of contacts. In 2015, I got to meet them.
Right.
And it was the three that were standing at the end of my bed. But as a kid, I'd probably had about 8 or 9 contacts, like during the day where I'd seen them with my eyes. Like one of my first ones was I was at the creek with my friend Stephen and Tommy. We just got all our show bags from the Adelaide show and, Rambo, Commando, the army one sort of thing. So we went down to the local creek to play armies, and we'd been out there for about 40 minutes and we're coming back in. And this one was at the beginning of Crittenden Road at Smithfield Plains. So when you get to the end of Crittenden Road, it stops with a dead end and it ends at the creek. So we just finished coming out of the creek and we could hear a helicopter noise in the background. So I've looked around and I could see this big, massive, mercury egg, sitting right above us, sort of on a 15-degree angle upwards.
Yep.
And I've pointed at it and I've said to my friends, I'm like, "Oi, look at that. And Tommy and Stephen have looked around and they've gone, no, it's a helicopter. And I've looked behind this mercury egg and there was a helicopter sort of coming up to it. And I've said, not the helicopter, that. And I've pointed at it. And Tommy Shippen just piss bolted. He ran. Me and Stephen just stood there in disbelief, just jaws on the ground looking at this thing. And this helicopter had sort of, this craft, saucer-shaped mercury, I call it a mercury egg because it had no lines, it had no seams. It was just like a thermometer.
Yep, liquid mercury. Yep.
Yeah, just floating in the sky. So as this helicopter's come up towards it, it started strafing around it like on a circular angle, and it probably nearly got a full rotation around it. And this craft just went straight up, like it left a hole in the clouds. There was no sun out that day; it was sort of overcast. It left a hole in the clouds, and this helicopter has focused its attention from the UFO onto us now, and it sort of pointed nose down. It's probably about 100 feet off the ground, coming towards us. So that's when me and Scusi ran. It was my sort of first experience at ridicule. I ran straight home and told my mum and sisters, and they're like, "Oh yeah, did they probe you?" It's the typical response of anyone that hasn't seen a UFO. Well, yeah. So that was sort of one of my first conscious and awake where I got to see a craft. Like I remember many times as a kid, craft being parked out in the backyard or leaving my front yard, or, multiples of these creatures being in my house or out the backyard as well. And as a kid, I sort of didn't sleep much either. It's like I had a fear of sleeping, I guess. So I used to sit up all night waiting for these things to come, basically. But yeah, after that one, I had an experience at my school. One had followed me to school when I was about 8 or 9 years old.
Yeah.
Going to singing lessons first thing in the morning, and I'd been walking across the school oval and I noticed this same thing again, like a mercury egg, but this thing had sort of like the sun was rising. It was about 7 o'clock in the morning. The sun was rising and all of the sky was sort of like an orangey purple. So I could see this mercury egg above us and it was above me and it was reflecting the orange and the purple light. So as I've stopped, it stopped also. And I was like, oh my God, I've got this immense feeling of fear rush over me. Obviously I was a kid and I didn't know what it was. So I just piss bolted towards the equipment. I ran into the tunnels and I hid in there and sat there for a second and like this thing has stopped again and then it started cruising. So I come out of the tunnel. I didn't have no fear then. And, you know, I probably had about 5, 6 of these contacts as a kid and I still didn't realise how important it was. Like,
yeah.
It wasn't until about 2012 where I'd been given some crystals because I've been having some anger issues and I'd been given some crystals off a female friend of mine and she said, put these under your pillow. And I basically just laughed at her. I thought she was a fruitcake, to be honest. Yeah. How the hell is a rock going to change my life? And do you know what? It did. I started collecting these crystals and it went from about 2 years of meditating, and then this chick told me, because she lives in Queensland, I was in Adelaide at the time, she rang me up and she goes, you need to cleanse your crystals. So I'd gone down to the beach to cleanse these crystals and I had a little rug and a mat and a box of these crystals. So I got out my car, I put the rug onto the beach and started meditating. At the time for me, I thought it was a sort of a bit of a feminine thing to do. So I thought I didn't feel completely right doing this thing, you know. I'm a bit of a masculine dude. I've done boxing, ninjutsu, jiu-jitsu, aikido. I've done a lot of martial arts. So for me to be sitting there doing this peaceful thing, I felt really out of place. But the first time I'd done it, I sat down at the beach in Noarlunga and started meditating and I sat there for about 20 minutes and I opened my eyes and I could see orbs up in the background in the clouds and I just thought, you know what, it's probably stars in my eyes or something. So I pulled out my camera, actually filmed them, and I come back home and I noticed that I'd got these orbs. I was like, wow, this is crazy. And this is what sort of fueled my interest into it. So I started having not just one contact, from 2012, I probably seen about 100 UFOs in that 1 year. And it was like they were following me around. Like I'd seen them at my nan's house and while I was at my nan's, I went inside to my nan's and I'm like, Nan, can you come outside? Can you tell me if this thing's moving? And she's like, what the hell? Like this old Irish lady, she's seen it, my kid's seen it, and this was something that was basically following me around, and I didn't understand it properly until probably the end of 2012, where I was at my brother's house, and I just got back from a holiday in Queensland over where you are, and I'd walked out the front of my brother's house, and I'm just sitting there looking up at the clouds, and I've seen these orbs coming out of the clouds. It was like one, and then another one followed it on the exact same pattern and path, and another one followed that one. And I'm like, whoa, I might be seeing, you know, once again, it's something that you sort of question because if you don't understand what you're looking at, you'll instantly question it. Your brain will go, what the hell is that?
Yeah, because
so I'd gone inside.
Your brain wants to, like, justify what it is, so it, like, tries to rationalise that you didn't see what you saw.
Exactly right. Yeah, your brain will even tell you, oh, no, that's not right. That might have been a star. Like, and when you hold your breath, you can get those stars going in the corner of your eyes. You know what I mean? If you're working in the heat or if you're getting lightheaded, you get stars in the corner of your eyes. And that's what I just assumed it was that. So I walked inside and I said to my brother, I said, come outside for a second, mate. His name's Daniel McCormick. He's from Ireland. And he's come out and he's like, what do you want? And he's looked up into the clouds and he's just gone, what the fuck? I can see that without my glasses. I said, so I'm not saying anything. He goes, no. So we got back and went back inside. I grabbed my video camera and we grabbed our phone and we started filming them for about 40 minutes. We had these above the house. So eventually they took off, and this is what started to really fuel my interest. So I started to read up on it. I started learning Sumerian. I got like a Sumerian dictionary. It's because I'd seen that movie with the alien speaking Sumerian. I thought maybe that's got some ability to it. So I started learning these Sumerian prayers, and lo and behold, I ended up getting a visit when I was at my nan's house, and I was out in the shed, and I'd said a few of these Sumerian prayers, and the wind started going, the fences started shaking. It was literally like a movie, and I was down on my hands and knees. I was going Zikia Kampa, Zikia Anakampa, Zikia Dingia Anakampa, which is a basic Sumerian prayer just to say, can you listen to me and hear my name?
Right.
And no sooner as I'd said that, the whole fence just started shaking. And I heard a bang on me on my nan's roof behind me because I was facing west at the time, which was facing the beach. We're 1 street away from the beach, and behind me was my nan's house, a bus that I was staying in. So when I was facing the beach, I heard this bang behind me, like something landed on my nan's roof. And I turned around and I could see these 3 dark figures standing on the roof, walking towards where my caravan was. And I just called these things down, but as soon as I seen them, I was like, holy fuck. I literally shat my pants. Like, it was the biggest amount of fear I've ever felt in my life. I jumped up. I ran into the caravan, I grabbed an axe and I put it between the door and the stairwell so no one could open the door, and I got onto the phone and I started calling my ex-girlfriend and I was like, they're here, you've got to help me. And I was screaming, shitting myself, and no sooner as I sat there and called my ex-girlfriend, I'd heard them walking over the caravan. Like, they jumped from the roof onto the caravan and started crawling down the side of it. Wow. They grabbed the door of the caravan and literally started shaking. It was like, and I was screaming my head off. I've never felt so scared in my life, to be honest. But no sooner as that door had started shaking, I felt the wind stop, and I could feel that they weren't there anymore. I could feel them leaving. Actually, it's like I could. Yeah. It sounds weird, but it's like I could see through the caravan, and I could see them leaving. And I instantly lost my fear, and I was like, oh my God. I heard them say to me telepathically, lose your fear, Shane, or we're never going to try and contact you again. Lose your fear. Wow. And I could feel them moving away, and it was a calmness which I hadn't felt before. Like, it was like, oh my God, this is real. I need to lose my fear. I need to concentrate on this a little bit more. So it wasn't until about 3 months later that my cousin arrived from from Western Australia. He had some problems with his girlfriend and his job, and he was like, I need to get over to South Australia, mate, can you? And not only did he want a plane flight, he wanted me to put his Maloo ute on a shipping container and put it on the train. So I had to borrow money off my friend. It was a bit of a mess around. I got him here anyway, and I got his car here. And he was here for about 2 weeks, and I was telling him about what I was going through. I was showing him the footage and trying to explain to him, and he's like, are you on drugs, cuz? He goes, you're off your head, mate. I goes, I don't want to see this shit. He's the sort of person that's a non-believer anyway, and, you know, it wouldn't have mattered if I'd put an alien in front of him. He still didn't believe, but one ended up in front of him, and he's a believer now. Yeah. So we went camping at a place called Lady Bay, which is just out of Normanville, South Australia. It's right on the coast. Right. And the day in question or night in question, we'd arrived at Lady Bay at this mountain, and we're looking up into the sky, and all you could sort of see was sort of like wasn't an overcast day. It was a blue sky, but there was lots of clouds in the sky as well, white puffy clouds. And that night was a lunar eclipse, so we basically drove out there to camp and watch this lunar eclipse. So we got out there, and during the day, there was all of these triangle cutouts of the clouds. It was like all uniform, sort of like triangle shapes, large triangle shapes, all the way through the clouds, all the way across the horizon, all the same size, all the same Semitic shape, and all facing the same direction. Wow. This is the weird thing, you know, and I was trying to point them out to my cousin and my friend all day. I was like, look at these like triangle cutouts of the clouds. It's probably a quote ship. And they were like, oh yeah, whatever, mate. Nobody wanted to listen to me, which was fair enough. Like, yeah, I understand. So later that night, we'd set up camp, had a few beers, watched this lunar eclipse. Lunar eclipse was about 1:23 or 1:24, I think it was. So we'd set up a bit after that, and I'd done a Sumerian prayer, and in the hope of trying to get something to come down so I could show my cousin at least like a UFO or a flying saucer going past us or something. That nothing happened, no orbs, no nothing. So everyone sort of, my cousin got in his tent, my mate Pop got into his tent, or Daniel, sorry. He got into his tent, I got into mine. Now as I've got into my tent, I've gone to zip it up, and the whole zip's just gone, so it's ripped out of its thingy. Yeah. I'm like, fuck no. So I went through all my stuff. I got some twine, I got a little piece of wire, and I started stitching up my tent. And I got it to about, I don't know, probably about 200 mils from the top. So there was just a little air gap at the top, enough for me to put my head out. thought, you know what, I'll just leave that. I'm going to sleep now. And the time was probably about 3:30, 3:40, something like that. Well, I've laid down to go to sleep, and after about 10 minutes, where we were sitting, or where we were camped, we were probably about 10 metres away from a guardrail on a road. But this road it's sort of like a rural road. No one drives out there unless it's sort of like in holiday season. So it's 3 in.m, you don't get a terrible amount of traffic, right? But we're just sat down to go to bed, about 15 minutes into just about asleep, and I've heard this massive bang. It's like someone has slapped the guardrail. It was a new unique sound. It wasn't like the heat had changed it. It was like someone had slapped it, and it sort of echoed across this little valley that we're in. And I sat up in my tent. I go, Jason, Daniel, did you hear that? No one answered me. So I thought, I was about to open the tent, and I said, I've just stitched this whole thing up. There's no way I'm going to open it unless there's literally someone at the tent trying to get in. So I thought, stuff it. I laid back down, tried to go back to sleep. About 10 minutes later, I heard, ooh, someone's whacked this guardrail again. But this time, I heard my cousin sit up in his tent, and he goes, did you hear that, cousin? I'm like, yeah, there was one about 10, 15 minutes ago. So I've heard him unzip his tent, and his body's come out of the tent. I've ripped my tent open so that only half my torso would come out, and my legs are still crossed inside of the tent.
Yep. And
as I've turned to him, because when I come straight out of my tent, his tent was to the right of me. Now, to the right of him is where these things were. So I've turned around and looked at him. I said, hey, did you hear that thing? He goes, yeah, no, I heard. I said, yeah, I heard about 15 minutes ago. But he turned around to his left and looked, and there were these three things. And he's gone, what the fuck are they, cuz? I turned around and seen these, probably about 10 metres away. There was three tall, slender greys. One of them had his hand resting on a pine tree. The other two were sort of resting on each other's shoulders. And because it was a lunar eclipse, it was a bright night, but the light that hit them, it was like their skin, I don't know whether they had a suit on or their skin was reflective, but when the moonlight hit them, they glowed.
Wow.
They were like, it was, and it wasn't like a bright light. It was like a very incandescent light that's hitting, and they glowed really bright, almost to the point where they had halos around them. And when I first looked at them, the instant thought was like, holy fucking shit, what the fuck are they? And I shit myself. I nearly pooed my pants, to be honest. But that feeling only lasted a split second. And straight after that, I was like, oh my God, it's you. I remembered them from being at the end of my bed that many times. And it's like the third one on the end said to me, yes, remember. And there was a big wave. There was a wave of all of these memories, like them visiting me as a kid, them telling me stuff as a kid, me walking down hallways, holding their hands, me being in rooms with other children and other beings as well, as a child, like just a flood of memories. And I went from fearing them to just like, oh, jeez, oh my God. It was just an immense feeling of love. It was hard to explain. And we're both sitting, me and my cousin are sitting there looking at these three things, and they're looking at us, and we were just gobsmacked. And one of them steps out of the group and waves. Now, my cousin said straight away, he goes, did that thing just wave at us? But like when it waved, I got another burst of information, and it was like, it was gargantuan. It was like being shown everything all at once.
Wow.
They showed me the creation of our solar system, their history, our history, many devices. There's so much stuff that they've showed me. It was overwhelming. It was very, very, very overwhelming at first. It all just hit me. Now, when this thing waved at us, my cousin said, did that just wave at us? I'm like, oh my God, I've got to go over there. I'm going over there. And my cousin goes, you know what, let's go. And he pulled out a machete straight away. And I'm like, oh no, what the hell are you doing? What the hell are you? I said, dude, put it down. You can't come over there, man. And he put his machete down. He goes, oh, come over. It's all cool. It's all cool. I said, dude, you cannot have thoughts of hurting them, or it won't work out very well for you. Just stay here. He goes, no, I want to come over with you. So we started walking over towards they were.
Yep.
And we got about 5 meters towards them, and they went from standing up to like leaning down on all fours. So they went from bipedal to quadruped.
Wow.
Within an instant. And it's like they were on all fours. They turned around and looked at us, and then just went, just ran. And I could say ran, but to be honest, all you could see was a line from where they were going around this corner, and it's like they just disappeared in an instant, like, and left it flash, almost like a fairy would in a movie, if you understand.
Oh, that's amazing.
But they cruised around this corner, and me and my cousin walked up to exactly where they were standing, where we'd seen them. And I'm looking around the corner, and I'm looking for where they were. And I'm like, where are they? And my cousin goes, oh, my God, Cuz, look at that. I'm like, where? I'm looking around at this bush, like where the road follows and the path follows to where I thought that they'd gone. He goes, no, not there. Look up on the hill. And I looked up on the side of the hill. Right in front of us was like a section of a pyramid ship parked on a very skewed angle. It's almost like its bottom was facing us. So it was
right.
like, it was parked very, very weird. It's not something that the human mind could comprehend. It was like a solid pyramid shape with only its edge sitting on the edge of the hill, and the rest of it was just floating. So
yeah.
my mind, both of our minds were like, oh my God, what the fuck is going on here? Like, what is that? And it was basically a part of a pyramid ship. It had pipes, engine pieces, pressure release valves, because I think there was steam coming out of some things. Like, I was that close to this engine. It was like looking at a Falcon 9 rocket, to be honest, because for me to find a reference, like on the internet, I obviously didn't have a camera that night, and I didn't take a photo, and didn't get selfies with the aliens, which I wish I did, but
yeah.
But the only reference that I could find, I typed in UFO engine, alien engine, I typed in all sorts of stuff to sort of find a reference that I could explain on what I seen. And the only reference that I could find was I typed in Falcon 9 engine, and there was a close-up of all of the pipes and all the engine parts, and it's exactly what the side of this thing looked like, was just multiples of that all intertwined within each other. Now, yeah, that information that they showed me, like, it was extremely overwhelming at first. Like, it took me about a good 12 months to comprehend it all properly, and to be honest, the first 12 months that I'd after meeting them, like, me trying to explain it to someone, it didn't sound the most convincing. Or it probably sounded convincing, but I sounded like a fucking nutcase.
I know what you mean, yeah.
I was trying to explain it to people. I'm like, oh, there was a fucking pyramid here, and they're waiting to see me all this fucking information. Oh my fucking God. And like, people just be like, oh fucking shit, get the fuck out of here. Like,
yeah.
They thought I was a nutcase. But, it got to the point. Yeah, all these ideas that they showed me and everything, I thought, you know what, I can't waste this. I need to start writing it all down. So I've started writing it all down in sections. I've started writing down some of the inventions. One of the inventions I've got painted, and I've been trying to acquire funding for it for the past few years. Obviously, when I was going to business meetings and meeting with investors, I wasn't like, oh yeah, I got this idea off the aliens. They showed me it. I basically told them all that I got it off my granddad.
Yeah.
But it's not where it comes from. Yeah, the stuff that they showed me they showed me gas devices, they showed me how to time travel, they showed me ion fusion storm reactors, how to clean water. There's so many things. I've got 36 of them written down, but that's only the beginning of it. I haven't written everything down yet, so it's knowing where to start and where to go from. So yeah. Over the past few years, what I've done is I just focused on that invention. I thought, you know what? There's no point telling everybody, because all you do is argue with everyone. You know what I mean? People, it's a very hard thing to believe, and I totally 100% understand. Like, not everybody that tells me that they've seen a UFO or met aliens, I don't believe them. Especially now after the experience that I've got, I understand a lot more. So. I do understand where this topic is very taboo. People are scared about talking about it. And even this interview, how long has it taken us to do, Jamie?
Fair well, yeah.
Yeah, 2-3 weeks. Oh yeah, I'll ring you tomorrow, mate. Like, it's something which is, I've been a bit sheepish about sharing it as well, but
you're brave for doing it.
Yeah, and I'll tell you something right now. I know that what I've experienced is real. I know what they showed me was real. Now, if I do nothing with this, what's the whole point in the situation? What was the whole point in the visit? What was the whole point in it? Like, information is meant to be shared. This isn't meant to be kept from everyone. Like, and whether people think I'm a nutcase or they don't, that's totally up to them. Like, it doesn't bother me whether people believe me or people don't. Like, what matters is, and what's the important thing is that I share this information and I share my story. That's what I believe.
Well, we've talked about it a few times and you've written it down as well, and I know you haven't strayed at all yet from what you've told me once. So, and it's not been identical, so you're not like reading a script. No, I know you've had these experiences. I definitely believe you.
Oh, thank you. It does mean a lot, but, you know, at the end of the day, I know
you're always going to get people,
Yeah, I know I need to do something with this information. Like, one of the inventions they showed me has the potential to produce billions and billions of tons of methane, CO2. Like, so this is, we won't have to fracture gas mine. We won't have to do coal mining anymore. I think I showed you one of those inventions.
Yeah, I've read about it. Yeah, that's really interesting. That is super interesting.
Yeah, well, that's just one of them, like I said. But even out of all these inventions they showed me and all this stuff that I've got written down now, like, I could have picked something a lot easier. I could have picked something very easier to do, but when I looked through the list of things that they'd showed me, I thought, you know what, this one's probably the hardest, but it's the most important, not just for myself, but for everyone on this planet, because, you know, if we can come up with a way without having to drag fossil fuels out of the ground every day, a way that we can create gas without having to suck it out of the ground and fractal gas mine it, well, it's going to be a bonus for everyone.
Yeah.
And everything, like all the creatures as well, which is, you know, the creatures on this earth is what keeps us alive. So it's a very important thing to think about, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, do you want to talk about your paintings that you've sent me? Because some of them are really, really amazing.
No worries.
I've been showing people them already as you've been talking, but I'll run back through them and have them up as we talk about each one. So I'll do them like alphabetically. So we've got Adam and Eve. Tell us about that one.
Adam and Eve. Well, in one of the stories that they showed me our history.
Yep.
They showed me that the reptilians created life on this planet first, which was the dinosaurs and the Saurian race, which was here previous to us. Our ancestors rocked up after that and basically buried their creation and created all of these fossil fuels, more gold, and a living space for us to live on and all the rest of it. But, yes, when our ancestors made us, when they came here to use us as slaves to mine the gold, basically.
Right.
That was the first Adam and Eve. Well, that one, the painting that I've done there is the second sort of birth of Adam and Eve, where by the reptilians, because after our giant ancestors lived here for hundreds of thousands of years, well, the reptilians came back and seen what our ancestors had done to their creation. And basically, there was a war in the heavens and they fought against each other. And that was the second, in that painting, I've got like a reptilian being, which is sort of laying down two humans onto the earth. And in the background, you can see pyramids flying off into space. They're sort of taking off, and which is our old ancestors' ships.
Right.
The Pyramids of Giza was a fueling station for our ancestor ships. And there's plenty of most of the old civilizations on this planet were from that.
Right.
The ones which have representations to snakes, dragons, and reptilian beasts or wizards and snakes. That's all the reptilian order, basically.
Wow.
You've got Quetzalcoatl, there's Shamash, you've got Tiamat. There's all the way through history. There's references to dragons or references to reptiles, and there's references to giants. So yeah, that Adam and Eve painting is basically the second time after the flood, or pre-flood, which they made the second round of humans.
Right. Okay, then we're on to Alien Frame, which is the one with the three aliens, and the central one's got like the DNA thing in his hand.
Yeah, well, that's another thing that they showed me. These grey aliens, the ones that I met, were created by our ancestors billions and billions of millennia ago. Now, they were made as a symbiotic form of AI, a biological symbiotic form of AI. So basically, they created these creatures. They kept it clean on their home planet. They sent millions and billions of them all out into the cosmos. Now, it's just like a bee. Like if a bee is on a flower and is collecting nectar for the queen bee, which is in her thingy, if the queen bee sits there and goes, I need another 6 hexagons built, the bee which is on the flower 1 kilometre away will go, oh, I've got to go build these hexagons. Well, when the bees go in and they start building them, the bee which is going to the flower goes, oh, no, they're already been done, so it goes back. So have you ever watched a bee?
Yeah.
It's going up to a flower and it goes, ding, ding. It's like it's turning around and it doesn't know what it's doing, but it's just getting messages from the queen.
Right.
Well, these alien greys are symbiotic also. So if there's one on Zeta Reticula, say in the ocean checking out a cephalopod, and there's one on Earth checking out a cow, both at the exact same time absorb the exact same knowledge.
Right.
So the one on Zeta Reticula, every single Nordic grey in the verse knows its path it took to get there, all the DNA that it collected, and all they basically have to do, they don't have to take a symbol of dirt or blood and take it back to their home planet and say, oh, this is a turtle. They don't have to take a bit of blood and take it back and say, oh, this is a lion. All they have to do is take a drop of blood, drop it on their hand. They totally understand the whole genetical material makeup of the animal, how it's created, how to make it. Right. Just from 1 drop of blood. And not just one of them, they all understand it. So they've been cruising through the cosmos and the verses for billions of millennia collecting DNA. They basically showed me that our planet is a collection of this DNA from all over. So when you go out and you look up into the stars at night, and you're like, oh, I wonder what's on that planet. I wonder what's on that planet over there. I wonder what's there. Like there's pine trees. Over there, eucalyptus. Over there, acacias. Over there, there's bamboos. Like some of them have the mixture of all of them, like we do here. Like our ancestors are DNA collectors and star mappers from billions of millennia ago, and you know we have the pretense to think that that gold is worth something. Gold is worth something if you're space traveling, but other than that, it's worth nothing. You know what I mean? Maybe for electrical devices. Yeah. But the real funds or the real money, intergalactic money, is in DNA. Right. So if you have DNA, you can create life, and if you can create life, you can create sustainability. You can't get away with sustainability without variety either. So that's why we have such a diverse variety of animal life and plant life and everything on this planet. This is a library. This is why we get visited by so many other alien species also, is because they want to come here to collect some DNA too. Like, yeah, right. So some of them are allowed here, some of them aren't, and it's just like if you're going to how would you say it? If you're going to go into a national park or forest and you want to take DNA from one of those animals, you know what I mean? You have to go to the state government first, then you have to go to the state rangers before you can actually go into the forest, and they want to know how much damage you're going to do. So it's the same thing. When alien races come in and they want to collect some DNA, they go see the head hierarchy on the moon, and they tell them what they want, and they either get permission to come down here or they get permission not to. All right. Yeah. Okay, so that's keep going. Yeah, that's basically what that is. That's them holding DNA in their hand. It's like a way of, all they have to do is drop blood into their hand, and they know, not just one of them knows, all of them. And they've been collecting stuff for billions of millennia. Right. Thoth, the Egyptian god, he was a grey alien which had been taken by the reptoids and basically kept on Earth. So he was the god of information. He was the god of wisdom. He was the god of time. He watched the creation of the solar systems, and basically, even if he didn't, one of his ancestors did. And because they're symbiont, they don't ever... It's like when we're born, we don't have any information and we're like a fresh slate. Yeah. When these things are made, they've already got billions of information. Yeah. Okay, so we're on to angels versus demons. You've got 3 of them. Angels versus demons. So that's in Leonardo da Vinci, I think it was Michelangelo in the Sistine Chapel does like a version of angels versus demons, and it's like, it's a heap of cherubs fighting against these demon guys, and which is the fight for the heavens. This is what it's depicted in the Bible, and it's depicted in this story that they showed me. So when our ancestors fought for this planet, it was basically our ancestors against the reptilians. So I've drawn it in how they've showed me it was. Like our ancestors had pyramid ships. The reptilians had circular ships. So in that picture that you can see, there's three pyramid ships. One of them is disconnected. It's got like a little piece which is connected off.
Yeah, that's sort of what you saw on the hill that day.
Yeah, that's exactly what I saw on the hill. I didn't see a full pyramid ship. Yeah. I only seen like the corner piece of it. Yeah. And the only part that I seen was a part that is obviously exposed to another exposed piece. So most sides of those ships are smooth, but when they disconnect, there's all engine parts in that connection part. So that's exactly what I've seen, yeah.
Cool. Okay, ANU Stargate.
ANU Stargate?
Yeah. That's got the guy holding a lion cub.
Holding a lion and then the tablets, yeah. Yes. That's basically... That's our Sumerian god, our human god, our giant god, which basically brings humans to Earth and started digging it up. And it's the reason why the Anunnaki is called the Anu. Anunnaki is because they made the Anunnaki from a drop of Anu's blood, or a drop of Marduk's blood, which was Anu's son. They made and from reptilian blood and an alien grey as well. And they created the Anunnaki as a truce race to govern this planet in the reptilians' absence. So that was probably about 80,000 years ago they were created. Now, I see on the internet all the time and people talking about, the Anunnaki created this. Human beings are older than the Anunnaki.
Right.
Human beings on this earth are older. The Anunnaki were created by reptilians out of Nordic blood, grey blood, reptilian blood, because when the reptilians took back over this planet 80,000 years ago and they sent down emissaries to speak to the kings and queens of this planet and just basically say, look, we've taken over the joint, your old dudes are cruising. So we didn't like the look of them. And if you look back into history, there's a lot of big, massive red beasts with wings, even when you go to Vlad the Impaler, or there's so many, even King Arthur basically spoke to a devil, a demon. There's a countable history all the way through history for this fact. Now, when these guys come down, as much as people think that reptiles hate us or this race hates us, they don't, because when they took over this planet, they could have wiped this out. And they did flood us, but they decided to keep us, and they've kept all the DNA as well, and there is truces. So at the end of the day, we can't be too upset that they've let us live, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Because they could have wiped us out a long time ago. And our ancestors have abandoned us. And that's a picture of him right there. Right. That's our God, the human God, which we come from, all of us, originally.
Okay, so now we'll get to Blue Blood, which has got the three aliens. Tall grey standing in the field, and another looking alien with the pyramid.
That blue guy is me.
Oh, right, okay.
It's sort of, as you can see, that got the three aliens in front, and then it's got like the triangle thing with the steps coming down.
Yeah,
that's basically what I've seen. But also, as you can look, I'm looking up into the sky.
Yeah.
And if you look directly where I'm looking, there's like a cloaked pyramid ship.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
It's basically saying that I can see them now and I understand now. It's like an awakening painting. So I guess before I was blind, I was an angry kid. I was a very angry kid, and this whole experience has changed me 1,000%. 1,000.
Right.
I'm not the same person that I used to be, and even all my friends know that. All my previous friends.
Mm-hmm.
I was a pretty violent person. I went through a violent upbringing as a child. I grew up in a very rough area, and I had some stuff happen as a kid, and it made me an angry child. So I've had a lot of anger issues my whole life, and it's only just been recently, which in the past 5 years, which I've got a hold of it all.
Right. Maybe part of the reason why the aliens came to you too, to help you get over your anger problems.
I think they did, and that was another thing that they mentioned to me. I'm extremely lucky because of the way that I've acted over my life. I'm extremely lucky that even considered approaching me.
Cool.
And I do feel privileged to have actually experienced what I've experienced. Yeah.
Okay, so our conveyed information.
Conveyed information, yeah. Well, that one's sort of like a mixture painting. It's sort of got them standing up my doorway. It's like a bunch of memories, okay? So yeah. The first one, you can sort of see them standing at the doorway. There's like a pink and yellow light with them coming through.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's another sort of silhouette of me pointing at them. But then there's them conveying the information. So when that one waved at me,
yeah,
it's pretty much, if I could slow down time, like to that millisecond, that's what it was like. It was like groups and groups and groups and groups and groups of information and different colours and everything all at once, all in a split millisecond. One wave.
Right.
One single wave. And I do understand it a lot more now, but I didn't know back then what the hell what a wave meant. But these Nordic Greys, a hand wave or a hand gesture can mean a lot of things. It can mean, they can use it for electricity. They can use it to open up time warp doors. They can use it to... There's so many things a hand wave can mean. Like they can use it to freeze people. They can use it to knock people out. They can use it to reset memories. They can use it to enhance memories. They can use it to convey information. It's a wave for them. They're not, as people have seen them, they're not the most muscular of beings. They're not the largest of beings. They're not the strongest. But when they were made, they were made with special abilities which made them stronger than the strongest animal alive, basically.
Right.
They have the ability to alter atomic matter, not just linear either, like in front of them. They can do it at a distance too.
Mm-hmm.
They can stop time. They can open portals. They can, like I said, they can range. I've got a whole lot of it written down. I think I've sent it off to you as well. But
yep.
Yeah, there's lots of things that they can do, and everything is basically through a hand wave of them.
Right, that's cool.
Yep.
Okay, the Eye of Marduk.
The Eye of Marduk, that's a new sun.
Right.
I drew that probably about 2 weeks after meeting him, and that was that Eye of Marduk. I scribbled that with one pencil, 2 black textures, and a whiteout texture. So that whole painting was just done with 3 textures, and it took me about 40 minutes to do.
Right.
But when I've done it, it's 2 weeks afterwards, I couldn't stop looking at the thing. It literally started moving when you look at it. If you look at that thing for long enough in the dark, it'll start moving.
Yeah, no, it's a pretty powerful image.
Yeah, it's just got all the lots and lots of shading and lots of highlights, which gives it that 3-dimensional look.
Yeah.
And I've never done anything like that before in my life. That was when, I've always drawn, and I've always been a sign writer, screen printer. I've done that for 15 years of my life, but I've never drawn anything like that in my life until that night. And that's what sort of just got me on that was sort of the kick-off painting, which got me painting those things. Because before that, the only other time I painted was graffiti or sort of like burning cityscapes with, characters and stuff. So
yep.
I wasn't an artist. I always have been an artist, but I was more of an urban artist or a street artist. I would have called myself, yeah.
Okay, Galaxy Duality.
Galaxy Duality. Well, that picture there. They showed that's like a bit of information that they showed me about galaxies. So the center of our galaxy, the center of the Milky Way, our Milky Way is expanding. All right, and now in the center of the Milky Way is a pinprick black hole which sucks matter from somewhere. They don't know where it comes from. They just say it just mysteriously appears, and we've got this constant matter which is fueling our galaxy, which comes from somewhere. Well, they showed me where it comes from. Everything has an opposite. So if we've got our galaxy is expanding, well, our galaxy will have an opposite through that filament tube, which is collapsing. And it does it sort of like the synapses of a brain cell. if you know what I'm saying. You know how
Yeah.
the synapses and firing of a brain cell happen? So you get one side of the cell will expand and it'll get to its very maximum, and all of a sudden it'll explode and it'll start collapsing. And as it collapses, it pushes energy through a filament, which makes another cell expand.
Right.
And it's like our galaxy is doing that, but it's just in slow motion. And who knows? It could be doing it in fast motion. It could be doing it as fast as a brain synapse fires and collapses. It could be doing it that quick.
Yeah, but to us it seems like it's slow motion because we're in a different time. Yeah.
We're in a different time space. Exactly right. And that's exactly what they showed me about time travel as well. It's, you know, people always say, "Oh, time travel. You need a device, or you need this." It's simple. It's two words: time, travel. So you need a vehicle to time travel. You don't need a device. You need a vehicle.
Right.
So we all experience time different to where we're sitting in relative to our mass, which would be our Earth and our Sun.
Yeah.
Now, see, the further away you go from Earth, the faster time goes. So if someone goes to Mars and spends 6 months there, 18 months passes on Earth, or 12 months passes on Earth. And the further it goes, the bigger it gets. But
right.
also, there's an opposite field to that as well. So you can travel back in time too. I haven't got a spaceship and I can't do the experiments, but I do understand the fundamentals of it, you know?
Yeah, right.
But yeah, that's basically what that is. That galaxy duality is basically saying there's an opposite for everything and there's an opposite reaction for everything. So if we're receiving matter from somewhere, there's got to be an opposite. There's got to be a galaxy which is collapsing and feeding us. And this goes across the whole board for every galaxy.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, Natook and Earth.
Natook and Earth. Well, that's
got the galaxy duality and alien holding planet Earth with Australia, yeah.
Yeah, well, basically, Natook is the name of the third alien who waves at me.
Right.
That's going to sound really weird now, but when I was conceived, they visited my mum. They took DNA from me and they put DNA into me as well. Now, the DNA they took from me, they added to another being, which was Natook, the one that I met that night.
Wow. The
one that waved at me is my counterpart, sort of. We were made at the same time. He's able to see through my eyes, and it wasn't until he waved at me that I was able to see through his.
Wow.
So he told me a lot about the soul. He told me lots about everything, and that's where he's holding the Earth. It's like he showed me the Earth. He showed me his real Earth, basically. So that's what that photo is. He's shown me the Earth and a lot of other stuff. So basically, if he's told me, I know it all sounds very far-fetched and hard to believe, whatever, but he's told me when I die, that's what I get. I get his body.
Wow.
My soul will join with his. As long as I get this life right and I don't make any mistakes and I live life properly, like with good morals and all the rest of it.
Yeah, right.
I get to join with him.
That's awesome.
And it's the same. And it is the same with anybody. Like if we get this life, we get to advance on to a greater being or a greater existence where we're given at the moment, we are guardians over all the life on this planet. This is the job that we've been given. Here, you're a human, look after the life, see how you go.
Right.
Not everybody gets it, you know what I mean? Some people just think it's about the money, but it's not. It's about having a connection with everything that's living, from fly to primate, from cockroach to whale. Everything is equal. Nothing's above anything. Like, we are all here for each other.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay, Natook, Earth and Mars.
Oh, that's basically the same one. It's just a reiterated version. One of those versions are sold for $300.
Cool.
But Natook, Earth and Mars are sold for $300, and the other one got wrecked at my last house. So
that's a pity.
Yeah, definitely.
And then finally, we've got Woken. Which is pyramid upside down with a tall grey, 3 tall greys, and yeah. You there?
3 tall greys. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I know which it.
Yeah, and it's got like
a darker picture.
Yeah, and it's got like a vortexy tunnel thing happening in the middle.
Yeah, vortex tunnel, and like the aliens are holding like a big like a guttering.
Yes.
That comes out. That was the very first picture that I drew after meeting them.
Right.
So I'd done that a couple of days after meeting them, and that was how far away they were. Basically, the pyramid was on the side of the hill, so I've just darkened that out, and that was the very first picture I'd done.
Cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's the location where I was, how far away I was from them at first.
Right. Cool. That's awesome, mate. Yeah. It's been awesome talking to you. Like, my mind's just totally blown.
Thank you, Louis. Thank you very much for giving me the time of day as well. I appreciate it, and I appreciate your trust and honesty and your respectfulness as well, because
yeah, well,
I'm sure there's going to be some comments on the thingy anyway, but
yeah, well,
it is what it is.
I'll tell you now, when you first sort of told me a little bit, I thought, this guy's a freaking nut job. But after hearing you talk about it and how passionate you are about it, mate, I'm in. I want to be there with you when you see him next time. Like, you've got me. I totally believe you, because you haven't wavered one bit in your story. And this is like the third or the fourth time we've talked about it, and you've sent me 2 different written accounts as well. And every time it's been different but the same, if you know what I mean. So you're not like parroting the same thing each time. But
it's not like I'm parroting the exact same thing every time, is it? So I understand.
Yeah. Mate,
and you know what? I wish that I could. I wish that I could share this with absolutely everybody, and I wish that I had proof. I wish that I had a camera. I wish that. You know what?
And it's probably meant to be. They're probably that intelligent that they know that every time you got a camera, don't go near him. Only come to him when he's, Yeah,
it's something that they want us to grow into as well. They want us to develop on our own. You can't be taught how to do everything. You know what I mean? And especially we're at a precipice of our culture and of our civilization, where we could go either two ways. You know what I mean? It could go good, it could go bad, and I'm hoping it goes good. And it's even the fine intricacies of our emotional states, and it's the reason why they're so interested in us. It's our emotional value, our artistic value. Yeah, they can make things. They're so advanced that they can travel across, one side of the cosmos to the other in a split second, but they can't create things. They haven't got emotional artistic value. They can't sit there and create a painting or make a symphony orchestra or get different instruments and put them all together. They don't know how to do that. Right. They haven't got emotions inside of them. They've spent billions of millennia breeding emotions out of their civilization so that they can live humble and happy and sort of like stable lives. Emotions throw spanners into fucking all sorts of shit, You fall in love with someone, it's the greatest person on the planet, I love them so much, and you know what? Something happens and you get jealous. Jealousy comes into it. The shittiest human emotion of them all, But it is a journey, and we are extremely revered by advanced races. To even have lived a human existence is considered extreme privilege. Like, just experience our many emotions and love all of the artistic values which go with it. There is nothing like it in the cosmos. Nothing like it at all.
Yeah, right. Okay, mate. Well, that's been just totally mind-blowing and awesome, and I'm so glad you shared my story with me. I really appreciate what you've done. You have no idea.
No, thanks heaps, mate. Much appreciated. Next year I'll be definitely getting up there. I'll come up for a beer and we'll go out and we'll get a contact. Cool.
We'll do that. That'll be awesome.
I guarantee it, mate. I guarantee it.
Can't wait. Okay, so that's it from me, from Where's My Yowie. I'll be in contact with you next time. See you all later. Bye.
Much appreciated. Thank you, Jamie.
Thanks, mate.